Hello all. Today I am going to provide you information about Introduction to Cables. A lecture was taken from NPTEL course. Right. In this course we will just have an introduction about the cable, in which we are going to see about the different structural components which are being used in a cable, the use of cable, and finally we are also going to see the difference between the single core cable and a 3-core cable, right? So in the first part, from the introduction to cable part, in that cables are nothing but the flexible wire systems having no flexural stiffness, that is bending, and they can carry only axial tension and no other type of force, right? So from this figure we can see that vertically it can't handle the pressure. Being fully flexible against bending, the shape of cable is determined by the external forces that are acting on the cable. So from this first figure it very well illustrates about the example, right? Now a cable is unable to carry a bending moment, shear force, torsion or axial compression. Nevertheless, cables can be very effectively used in achieving long span, lightweight systems such as bridges or ropes for large arenas. Two kinds of bridge structural systems where cable are used are the suspension cable systems and cable straight systems. From this figure 3.2 it is clear, right? From electrical point of view, the cable is actually used to carry a power from one place to other place. Okay, large amount of power is being used. Basically it is being classified into two types of cable, that is overhead cable and underground cable. Overhead cables are mostly we can see near to a roadsides along the tower. Okay, best example for it is an conductor, and the underground one is also used for carrying and power, but it is, as the construction cost used for that underground power transmission is more, therefore less percentage of power is carried with the help of underground cable as compared to overhead cable. Okay, but there are certain advantage and disadvantage when we go for an overhead cable as well as for an underground cable. Okay, like when we go for an overhead cable, that is majority of the power which is being carried today in our country is with the help of an overhead cables, right? But the overhead cables, we can see that it is been prone to an atmosphere. Okay, so there can be a damage when the tree falls. It is been also suspected to large winds, right? Atmospheric condition, okay, and large amount of power failure can also occur on that due to some accidental cases, right? But when we see in case of an underground cable, then in case of an underground cable, basically it is, as it is buried inside the ground, therefore it is not been exposed to atmospheric condition. But if a problem occurs in case of an underground cable, then it becomes very difficult to carry out the maintenance for an underground cable, as it is very difficult to detect the point of fault. But similar problem if it occurs in case of an overhead cable, then maintenance can be carried out easily on that, right? Now next we will see about the difference in the types of cables, that is single core cable is there, multi-core cables is there. In case of a multi-core cable, we are actually using 3-core cable. Okay, so what is the difference between constructional point of view in between single core cable and 3-core cable, that we will look further. Again I want to make you more clear about the cables. So I have prepared a small PowerPoint presentation which will again make you clear about the different types of cable and the cross-sectional view of cable which we have left earlier, right? So here in this introduction to cables, this one we can see that it is an example of 3-core cables. This two which is being shown here is an example of a 3-core cable. Okay, now basically from introductory point of view, cable, an electrical cable is an assembly of one or more wires running side by side or bundled, which is used to carry electric current, as I have told you earlier. Okay, in the second point it says that electric power can be transmitted or distributed either by overhead system or by underground cable, as I have told you brief out earlier about the transmission of power through overhead cable as well as underground cable with the advantage and disadvantage. Okay, but the major drawback is that they have greater installation cost and introduce insulation problems at high voltages compared with the equivalent overhead systems, right? So this problem, when we are going for transmission of power with the higher voltages, then the insulation is a major factor which is causing a problem or limitations for carrying a power with the help of cables, right? But this problem will not occur up to that extent in case of an overhead cables, right? So in the next slide, these are the typical types of cables which are being used. Okay, you can see here that EHV cables. EHV cable means extra high voltage cables which can be used in the range of 33 kV to 66 kV, that is line voltage. Second is high voltage tension cable, that is HVT cables we call it. It is used up to 11 kV, 11 kilovolt, and again it is available in case of a single core as well as 3-core cable, both the types. Next is LT cables, that is low tension cables which can sustain a voltage level of lower magnitude, that is up to 1 kilovolt. And last is about control cables which are used for some special purposes. In the next slide we can see that it again some different types of cable have been added here, that is instrumentation cables, thermocouple extension and rubber cables. Okay, so as per our applications we can use different types of cables which are available in the market. Next, this is the main picture which will show you the difference in the cross-sectional view of the cables which are been organized. Okay, right, here you can see that the center portion is called as a conductor. This conductor is made up of aluminum or copper. Okay, and mostly it is made up of copper. Okay, as it is having higher conductivity as compared to aluminum, right? And center portion is called as conductor. Okay, in which the power is being carried. It is also surrounded by a conductor screen. Okay, surrounding to the conductor there is a layer of insulation, and this insulation layer can be made up of bituminous compound. It can be insulation, it can be rubber also used, it can be paper insulation also, impregnated paper which we called it. Okay, surrounding to it there is an insulation screen, that is non-metallic insulation screen. We can also call it as a sheath type of thing which is also used to make the cable strong enough to withstand several hazardous conditions. Surrounding to that again the moisture problem will occur, so we are going for a layer of fibrous type of material known as bedding. Surrounding to the bedding, to again make the cable strong, we are doing armoring. In the armoring process we are actually going with the help of galvanization. Okay, and finally again to protect that part from the moisture condition effect, we are having a layer of jute, that is again a fibrous type of material, and it is called as serving. So this is all different structure of cables. Okay, first one is what conductor in which the power carries. Second, surrounding to it is an insulation made up of rubber, paper, impregnated paper. Okay, third one is what called as sheath. Fourth one is called as bedding. Fifth is called as armoring, and sixth is called as serving. Okay, now in case of 3-core cable also all these processes are similar. Okay, but special attention is being given. This is inside the main core of a cable. There are 3 cores as shown here. Therefore, it is called as 3-core cable. And here you can see that only 1 core is there. Therefore, it is called as single core cable. Right, now everything rest of the thing will remain same. So I hope that you have understand the difference between the single core cable as well as the 3-core cable. Okay, in the further lecture again I will provide you the description part of the cables. Okay, so here I am concluding.